Welcome to Nimble Minds Talks of Self and Spirituality, where we talk about different philosophical perspectives as well as spiritual practices. And I also talk about topics I find interesting and I also believe can just bring, different insights and, make you and even myself ask different questions about different topics. So, the topic of this video, once again, I like to preface my videos by saying it will get into the temptations, especially in this one. It will be lust. There will be a big focus on that, okay? And the perspective or the topic of this video is going to be about marriage, okay? And just my opinions on it. And keep in mind, I have never been married. I'm a younger guy, 23 years old. So keep that in mind when I am sharing my perspectives, my opinions, and just my experiences on it, because I have never been married. I don't have any plans to, but, just throwing that out there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So marriage, right? So I can be honest and say growing up until I want to say recently, and when I say recently, I want to say the last couple of years, like mainly last year or two, my perspective on relationships and marriage and the whole thing, that has changed drastically. It has changed drastically. Nimble minds, nimble minds. What's that? Nimble minds, nimble minds. What do you mean that your perspective has changed so drastically over these course of like just the last few years? Like in your whole life, you've had a different perspective. Well, that's a great question. So when it comes to marriage and relationships, growing up, I had like a more naive, you could say, look on relationships, right? I was the younger guy, like, you know what? I just want to find a woman, and it's just gonna be like those Disney fairy tale movies, and we're just gonna love each other and get married and just have the time of our lives together because that's what you're supposed to do, right? That's just life, right? That was just the perspective I had growing up, okay? I'm just being honest, so that's where I was at, okay? But growing up and just you know seeing other people's situations, okay, and then hearing about different stories, seeing different stories play out, and then it got to a point where I did my own research, and I'll get into that. My perspective on marriage and relationships just really changed drastically. I can say it changed drastically. So first first I can say, when it comes to relationships, right, that's just not the case, okay? And I am very blessed that I was not sleeping around, okay? I'm very blessed that I did not get into some situations, because I was in some, just being young and hanging out with people. I was in some situations where I could have had plenty of relationships and, slept with some women, okay, or however you want to say it. So I'm definitely blessed that did not happen. And now looking back, hindsight's 2020. I'm very grateful that I was not doing that, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So let's continue on with the topic of marriage, right? So when it comes to marriage relationships, okay, that's just not the case, especially in today's age. That maybe, I still do believe that there are some people out there, there's few, not many, but there's some people out there who are not out there sleeping around, okay, who are not out there engaging in all the temptations and are actually taking care of themselves and holding true, okay, to being respectful to their own bodies and themselves. So when they do meet that person, okay, they can fully, actually be able to connect to that person, all right? And then on the topic of marriage, one of the things that changed my perspective, right, was there was a time when I was in college, okay? When I was in college, there was a time that I actually, how if in English class you have to write papers, okay? So in English class we were writing papers and we were given specific topics that we could write about. And I chose to write about marriage. I'm so glad I chose to do this because it gave me so much insight and information, right, on the institution. Yes, I'm saying the institution of marriage. It gave me so much insight on the business, okay, the business negotiation that is marriage. Marriage has nothing to do with love, okay? Whoever's telling you that, they're lying to you. So that's what I came upon in my research, okay? And that completely shattered my perspective of it. Because me, I was thinking like, hey, I'm just gonna find someone, we're gonna love each other and we're gonna have been honest in our own lives and not have been sleeping around and doing these things. So when we come together, we're gonna be able to connect. I'll be the first to tell you, if you're a person out there who is in a situation like that, you should cherish it, because that is not the norm. That is not most situations, okay? So when I was writing this paper, right, I came to find out that at least the history of marriage in America, right, it has a history of not being about any type of love whatsoever, okay? It's really more of like a contract. It's like, I found out that when you get married, it can change your tax bracket, okay? I found out that when you get married, you take on other people's finances. When you get married, it can change a lot about someone else's circumstance, including yourself, okay? And I was not thinking about these aspects of marriage, okay? I was not aware of this whenever I was being brought up and, told about marriage, okay? And after I learned this, it was just one of those wake up calls like, listen, man, you have a certain perspective and a certain way you want to live, so you can do that for you, but to be expecting other people to want to do that is just not fair to them, because that's just not the reality of the world that we live in. So when I was finding out this stuff about marriage, just writing this paper, I was like, wait a minute, this actually makes a lot of sense. Nimble minds, how does this make a lot of sense? Well, it does make a lot of sense, because in society you can see how marriages end up not working out, because there really was no actual desire there. There was no care there for the other person. A lot of times people do get married just to change their financial situation, just to change their current circumstance, okay? And once again, some people, that's just what they want to do, so they're going to do that. I'm not going to be the one that's going to sit here and be like, you're wrong. No. Some people have the reasons, and that's what they do. But I realized that that was not me. So I had a decision to make. Either I keep, lying to myself and I just try to change who I am deep down and the things my morals and the things I actually care about, or, I might have to give up marriage. I might have to give up relationships. I might have to give up certain things, because that is just not how I view those things, okay? And rather than to put myself in a situation to where I end up, in the same situations I'm observing, in the same situations I'm researching about where it's not working out and all this stuff, and it just gets flipped upside down, I could just easily be like, you know what? It's just not for me. Okay, it's just not for me. And at the time, it was harder to do that than it is now. Looking back now, I'm grateful that I was even able to realize that, recognize that, and then to make that decision, okay? Because some people can't do that. Some people will still go into these institutions of marriage. Some people will still end up in these situations where eventually all the, sunshine and rainbows, all the smoke and mirrors, it fades away, and then they're left with the truth at the end of the day, okay? So I'm just blessed that I was able to even realize these circumstances about the institution of marriage, okay, and then not get involved in that. So that's one thing I'm very blessed about, and I really am appreciative about that. So that's one way that my perspective on marriage has changed. Another thing is that just the society we live in, okay? And I'm going to get into that thing that I came up with, that I like to talk about, that connection. I like to compare the amount of partners someone has to an internet connection, okay? The amount of partners someone has to a Google Fiber LAN cable type connection, okay? And just to, if you're a person who's not super familiar with that, it's okay, because I'm not even the best with that. But for example, LAN cable is like one of the better connections, like if not like the best connection you could get, because essentially in theory, right, you're connected right to the source. And the LAN cable connection, it's a cord, so it's like direct, it's wired, okay? You're directly connected to the source. What's the source, Nimble Minds? What's the source? I'm glad you asked. That's the spirit, that's the soul, that's God, right? So if you're not out here sleeping around, if you're not out here giving into these temptations and desires all the time, you have that LAN cable connection, okay? And I even put a number on it. So Nimble Minds, please explain the whole breakdown of it. The LAN cable connection, the 2-bar connection, the SOS connection, airplane mode connection. Great. I'm glad. I will be happy to do that. So for me, I would say 0 to 3 partners is still in that LAN cable connection. Okay, 0 to 3, I would say, is still in the LAN cable connection, okay? 0 to 3 partners is within the LAN cable connection, is within the 5 bar connection, however many max bar connection, okay? You still have Google Fiber, you still have high speed connection. You can still connect to the spirit and the soul pretty easily. And not only that, but when you're not sleeping around out here and you don't have all these partners, all these energies that are inside of you, okay, and around you now, you now can, when you do find someone and they have also been responsible with themselves, now you guys can actually connect a lot easier, okay? And the connection and the bond you guys have together will be stronger, okay? Because you were not out here sleeping around. They were not out here sleeping around. They don't have all these spirits. They don't have all these energies within them. So when you guys get together, it's very easy now. You guys both have, maybe it's not LAN cable, right? Maybe you got like upwards of 4 partners, okay? And maybe you're missing out on the LAN cable, but that's perfectly fine because you still don't have 5 partners. You weren't out here sleeping around. So now you can still get that 5 bar connection. You can still get that Google Fiber high speed connection or with this other person, okay? And then when you guys get together and it works out, you guys could get back up to that LAN cable connection to the spirit and the soul. Now let me actually explain that a little bit, okay? Listen, I'm talking about things like when you guys start communicating with each other. If you guys have, you guys are both responsible with yourselves and you guys have that trust in each other, now the communication is there, okay? Now there's not really many ifs, ands, or buts about it because you guys can trust each other because you guys know that before you even got there, this person was responsible anyway. So now that we're together, we're really locked in, okay? You need to call this person. You already know what time it is because now you guys are really locked in because you guys know you guys haven't been sleeping around. You don't have all these different energies, all these different bad, negative energies and just different entities within you guys and around you guys. So now you guys can actually connect to each other how you guys should, okay? The communication will be there. The relationship will be there, okay? Whatever you guys need to solve, if it's an argument, you guys will be able to actually maybe have some arguments, but still be able to get over at the end of the day because you guys are responsible, okay? And you guys will have that trust there and the intimacy will be there and the love and the trust will be there, okay? Because you guys were actually responsible and doing what you guys needed to do, okay? And that's only the 0 to 3, okay? In my opinion, right? That's my perspective. I would say 0 to 3, okay? And that maybe 0 to 2, but right now I'm saying 0 to 3. 0 to 3, you can still get a LAN cable connection, okay? You can still have that, but let's keep going, okay? Because now we have the rest. After 0 to 3, you're outside of the LAN cable connection. Pretty much you're outside the LAN cable connection. So now we have, I would say 0 to 3, and then we'll do, after that, I would say 4 to 10, okay? 4 to 10, 5 to 10. That's when you're in that. No, I'm not even going to do that. We're going to say 4 to 6. 4 to 6, you're at 4 bar connection. You still have 4 bar connection, okay? As an individual, you have the 4 bar connection. You can still have the Google Fiber, and you can still have some high-speed connection. But now when you get with another person and you guys do what you guys are supposed to do, you guys now build that connection back up, and you guys can have that Google Fiber connection, not a LAN cable anymore. You're outside of the range for the LAN cable now, but you guys can still have high-speed connection. Now, after that, once you get into 6 to 10, partners, that's when it's starting to get questionable and you have to start asking some questions. All right, more questions. 6 to 10, I wouldn't even trust that. Okay, and then that's when you're at the 3 bars, the 2 bar connection, okay? That's when it gets a little bit harder because you've been with a couple of people now. You have those different spirits in you, okay? You've been hanging around some things that are not the best for you. So now it's going to be a little bit harder for you to trust someone, a little bit harder for you to connect with someone, okay? Especially if they've been on the same type of energy you've been on where they kind of just been sleeping around, okay? And then, okay, anything above 10... and this is my perspective, okay? This is my opinion. People might not agree. That's okay. But when you get upwards of 10 plus, 10 to 20, look, that's 1 bar connection. That's SOS signal. That's airplane mode connection, okay? Now you were just out here slinging dilly, willy-nilly if you're a guy. And if you're a woman, you're out here just giving coochie to everyone, okay? Because when it gets to that point, that's when, you've been sleeping around, okay? You no longer have that connection to the spirit, the soul, okay? And that means when you enter a relationship and you get with someone, okay, saying that they've also been sleeping around, now you guys are going to have all those different spirits within you guys, all those different energies within you guys, and it's going to be harder to trust. It's going to be harder to have that communication, okay? It's going to be harder to add to the plus, okay? Because you guys were being irresponsible. You guys were out here sleeping around with all these different people. and weren't thinking nothing of it. And then eventually you got older and realized, wait a minute, there is something to it. This does matter, okay? Me sleeping around and just giving this intimate moments to multiple people for no reason and not being responsible over my faculties actually does have an effect on me in the long term. Now you're gonna be realizing that, and it's gonna be too late because you were already out here sleeping around. And hey, that's on you. That's on you, okay? If you want to sleep around, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna judge you. That's what people want to do. I'm just being honest, okay? So people out here want to sleep around. These are the results. These are the results. People have the baggage. People have the different things they're going to bring to a relationship because they were out here sleeping around. Now she's asking where you're at. She's asking where you're at. She doesn't trust you anymore. Now she's been out too long. Now you're asking questions like, wait a minute, why were you gone so long? Where were you at? Okay. And when it gets to that point, I'm already done. Me personally, I'm not even going to do that, play that game. But there's some people who don't really have a choice. Okay. And it's a shame. There's some people don't have that choice anymore because they were out here sleeping around. Okay. They were out here sleeping around. So now they're going to be with these people and in these marriages, and that's what makes it even worse. Then you get in these marriages with these people, and then that's when it's just that's just a recipe for things to not go the best, in my opinion. A recipe for disaster, in my opinion. Okay, so that's why, you know, my perspective on relationships and marriage has changed, because that is what's being promoted, and that's what people do go towards and gravitate towards, is not having self-control, okay, especially over the lust. That gets a lot of people. The lust gets a lot of people. And once again, I just have to say, once again, I'm grateful and I'm blessed and I'm very fortunate that at the times where I did not have the most control over my lust, it did not result in me creating any broken homes, okay? It did not result in me getting with a woman and leaving her alone, okay, and vice versa, getting with a woman and now I'm alone with the child, okay? It did not result into that. So I'm just grateful and blessed that I don't have that stress. I'm gonna say that again. I'm just grateful and blessed that I don't have that stress, okay? Because at the end of the day, I'm still in range. I am still in range. I still have that Google Fiber LAN cable potential. I'm in the 0 to 3, okay? And if you want to know, only one, okay? Only one, and that's going to have to be a story time. That's going to have to, not even a story time about that, but it was only one. Only one person I have ever actually slept with in my life, and it wasn't even anything real, okay? It was not even real, if you ask me, because I just bought some coochie, okay? That's all it was for me. It was just, I had to have the experience to see what it was like, and it was not all that it was chopped up to be, all that it was hyped up to be, in my opinion. It really wasn't. So I only have one. I don't regret it because it gave me insight, but at the end of the day, I'm still in range, okay? I am still in range, but that's just my perspective on it, because there's a lot of people that are not fortunate enough to be in that situation. When I say that, what do I mean? Nimble minds. What do you mean there's people who are not fortunate enough to be in that situation? There's people who did not think about this, okay? And once again, I'm a younger guy, 23 years old, so what does that mean? That means I'm in the college age range. There's people 18 to 25, right? Still in college. And what happens in college? Besides going to your classes, right, and learning and gaining your knowledge, right, people like to party. People like to go out, hang out, drink, okay, smoke, do all types of things, right? And that's like, you know, you're in college, you're young. So when people are out here doing this, they're not thinking about this. And if they are thinking about this, this is the unpopular thing. I'm going to say it again. If they are thinking about this, this is the unpopular thing. And one thing on this channel, you already know what time it is. If you've been watching, if you've been listening, we take the unpopular and we make it popular. I'm going to say this again. We take the unpopular and we make it popular. The unpopular thing that people don't want to hear is you need to have self-control. You need to be able to say no. You need to be able to focus and stay true to your goal, okay? That's the unpopular thing, okay? The unpopular thing is to say, hey, we can't be going out here partying all the time, okay? The unpopular thing to say is I'm going to have some self-control over my faculties. I'm going to have some discipline, okay? That's the unpopular thing. The unpopular thing to say is I know everybody want to go out here and party hardy, okay? But I'm going to say no, okay? Because at the end of the day, I got a different party I'm trying to get to, and I'm going to be tardy to that if I'm not focused, okay? I'm going to be tardy to the real party if I'm not focused on not giving into these temptations and not giving into this lust, okay, and subtracting from my plus. I'm going to be tardy to the real party, okay, if I'm not out here really focused, okay, and not trying to add to my plus, okay? That's what the unpopular thing is. But guess what over here? That's the popular thing for me. That is the popular thing to do, okay? That's the popular thing for me. That's the popular thing for me to do, is to say no to the temptations, okay, is to have some self-control, okay, is to not be out here sleeping around, okay, and just throwing it around, throwing the, my dilly willy-nilly, okay, slinging dilly willy-nilly. That's my popular thing to do, is to not do that, okay. The popular thing I would urge you to do is to not be out here slinging dilly willy-nilly, okay. The popular thing I would urge you to do is not have your coochie on a string waving that thing, okay. I said don't have your coochie on a string waving that thing. But the unfortunate part is it's too late for some people, okay. There's some people who have already been out here in college, okay, one semester, okay. Well, how long is a semester, dude? It's been a minute. I don't even know, like a couple of weeks, bro, like a month, bro. Like, look, the semester, bro, in a semester, bro. In a semester, bro, they done already got over 10 bodies. In a semester, bro, they have 10 plus partners. In a semester, bro, they went from land cable connection. In a semester, they went from land cable connection to the spirit and the soul, okay, to no goal. In the semester, they went from land cable connection to a spirit and the soul to now not even having a goal, okay. So it happens quickly. And it can happen to anyone, okay? It can happen to me. Although I'm still in range, I still got my land cable connection, and I'm doing what I can to make sure that doesn't change. I'm going to say it again. I'm still within range, and I still got my land cable connection. I'm going to do what I can to make sure that don't change. I'm still within range, and I'm going to do what I can to make sure that doesn't change, okay? But there's some people out here, it's too late for them. There's people out who have already been sleeping around, giving their most precious and valuable time and resources and assets to other people who do not care about them, to other people who are actually, they're just out here sleeping around to sleep around, okay, and that's not okay in my opinion. Once again, we turn the unpopular to the popular, okay. We turn the unpopular things to the popular things over here. The popular thing is to have some self-control. The popular thing is to realize you have a goal. The popular thing is to be like, I have self-awareness and I can say no, okay. The popular thing is to realize you have to have self-control. The popular thing is to realize you have a goal. The popular thing is to realize you need to have some self-control and be able to say no, okay. That's the popular thing, okay, at least for me. That's the popular thing to do, but not for many people. A lot of people, they want to sleep around out here. A lot of people want to go around and give their best years to people who don't care about them, okay? And then in return, they are actually not caring about themselves. And then on the back end of that, they get to a point where they get older and they start to realize the facts. And then after they realize that, now they want to go get married. Now they want to start asking for all this stuff that they didn't even put in the work to even be able to ask for stuff they deserve, okay? So don't be that person. Don't be that person, okay? Be the person who is just resisting the temptations. Be the person who is having that self-control, that self-awareness. Be the person who is be able to say no. Be the person who is able to focus on your goal. Be the person who is, look, if you have a business idea, you're working on that. If you have hobbies you're interested in, you're partaking in those hobbies, okay, to not give into those temptations, okay? If you have something where now you have time to take care of yourself, now you have time to focus on your physical, mental, and overall general health, okay, then you need to take that time and you need to have that self-control so you can shine. I'm going to say that again. You need to take that time and have that self-control so you can shine. I'm going to say it one more time. You need to take that time, okay, to have that self-control so you can shine, okay? That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. Strengthen your connection to the spirit, the soul of God. Strengthen your connection to that, okay? Don't be out here giving into these temptations out here, because it's going to have you out here looking crazy, okay? And when I say looking crazy, nimble minds, you're cooking right now. What do you mean it's going to have you out here looking crazy? Great question. And if you have any more, please ask. This is what I mean what's going to have you out here looking crazy, okay? And I'm not talking about a straight jacket. I'm talking about literally you're going to be out here sleeping around. This could be the man or the woman, okay? It could be the man or the woman, okay? Because it's both. It could be the man or the woman. I'm gonna start with the women first, okay? You're gonna be a woman out here. You're gonna have one of these women out here sleeping around, okay? Then it's gonna get to a point where they didn't realize what they were actually doing. They didn't realize what they were putting on the line and what they had just signed away, okay? So now they're out here sleeping around. Now they're asking themselves, and now they're having cognitive dissonance, okay? Now they're asking themselves, and they're having cognitive dissonance, and they're wondering, okay, why can't I find a man? Why can't I find someone that can withstand the quicksand with me, okay? Why can't I find someone that wants to actually take this journey called life with me? Well, you were out here sleeping around. Well, you were out here putting that coochie on a string, letting that thing swing around, okay? That's why nobody wants to take you serious, okay? That's why people don't want to do that, because you're for the streets, okay? Let's talk about it, okay? You didn't have self-control. That's why people are saying no, okay? They don't want that. The last thing somebody wants is to be with a woman, okay? And then you got the whole football team talking about some, hey, look, you remember that girl? And it's like, you know what? It is what it is. At that point, you were already with her. So that's part of the reason, okay? That's part of the reason, because a lot of times people want to focus on the other issues. Look, deep-rooted issues taking that face value lead to destruction. I'm going to say it again. Deep-rooted issues taking that face value lead to destruction. I'm going to say it again. Deep-rooted issues taking that face value lead to destruction. So the deep-rooted issue is that you were out here sleeping around. The deep-rooted issue is that you had that coochie on a string, letting it swing around, okay? That's the deep-rooted issue, but you don't want to talk about that. You think it's everything else but the fact that you didn't have self-control when it mattered, okay? So now when people realize that and they find out about that, they're iffy about it, okay? They're like, I don't know if I want to do that. So now I'll be out here looking crazy, because now you're going to be in situations where you just cannot believe that that's the case. And that is the case. I'm trying to tell you, okay? So don't be that woman. Don't be that woman. Because I can understand how women can be in that situation, okay? And I don't advocate for women to be in that situation. I support women, okay? And the reason I support it, but I'm going to tell you the truth, okay? I support it, but I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is, you got to take care of you. So if there's any women out there listening, you need to take care of you, okay? So when you run into that man, when you run into that person that will withstand the quicksand with you, you weren't out here sleeping around and he wasn't out here sleeping around. Y'all can actually do that together if that's what you want. If that's what you want, okay? So if you're the woman, now let's get to the men out there, okay? Let's get to the guys out there. Listen. You need to not be out here swinging that dilly willy-nilly, okay? I don't care what you heard. I don't care who lied to you and told you, yeah, you can sleep around with all these women. Listen, if you want an STI, if you want an STD, then okay, feel free. If you want an STI, if you want an STD, okay, feel free. If you want an STI, if you want an STD, okay, feel free. But you need to not have that dilly out here swinging it willy-nilly. You need to not be swinging dilly willy-nilly out here if you're a guy, okay? You need to actually have some self-control. And I don't care, because a lot of it's peer pressure. Let's talk about it. A lot of it's peer pressure for some of these men out here, okay? Some of them feel obligated to be out here trying to sleep with as many coochie walking women as they need, okay? A lot of these people feel the need to be out here trying to sleep with as many women as possible. Let me tell you something. If you think the only thing in this world that's worth doing all that for is coochie, then you're missing the point, okay? And you're already tardy to the party that really matters, okay? You're already tardy to the party that really matters if you think the only thing out here that matters is coochie, okay? Listen, a lot of people out here are sprung on coochie and they don't even know it. A lot of people out here are sprung on that coochie. That's why they can't leave this woman alone. That's why they can't leave this woman alone so they can focus on their goals, okay? That's why they can't get that woman off of their phone so they can focus on their goals, okay? Because that's what a lot of men are. A lot of men don't have that self-control. A lot of men lost that Google Fiber, that LAN cable connection a long time ago. A lot of men don't have that self-control. A lot of people lost that Google Fiber, LAN cable connection a long time ago, okay? And they are culprits as well. Men, you need to have some discipline out here. You need to have some discipline out here. And once again, I'm going to start wrapping this video up. But you have to understand, it's not for everybody. I got to say it again. You have to understand, it's not for everybody. There's people out there who are going to give into the temptations, man or woman. There's men out there, okay? They're going to be out here looking crazy now because they done slept around. Now they got all this baby mama drama, okay? And now they're arguing with women. Like, what do you look like? So there's going to be a lot of people out here that they have already got themselves in those situations, okay? And that's the unfortunate part. But let me tell you something. To all the people out there that are actually putting in work to resist the temptations, to all the people out there that are not giving into the lust that's subtracting for the plus, to all the people out there that have taken a break from the drink, taken a break from the smoking, taken a break from things, and now you have time to actually think, okay, that you're taking time for yourself. And even shout out to the people who were engaged in the temptations, right? Who maybe got rid of that LAN cable connection, but now they realize and they're like, you know what? I'm not even surprised. Let's do right now. Now is the time. Shout out to those people too, okay? But to the people out there that are actually focused and putting in the work, okay, and not getting yourself into these unnecessary relationships with this unnecessary drama, okay, and getting these children into these situations they don't need to be in, okay? Shout out to you guys. Shout out to the people out there that actually have self-control. Shout out to the people that are not gossiping, lying, envious, jealousy, gluttony, deceit, all those types of things, and giving into the envy and the lust, okay? Shout out to those people, okay? Because I'm going to tell you something. It's not for everyone. It's not easy, okay? And sometimes, you know, the things in life that are actually worth doing are not always the easiest things. And this is one of the most difficult things some people will ever do. This is one of the most difficult things a lot of people, I'll say almost everyone will ever do, is to have control over your faculties, to have control over the temptations, to be able to say no to the lust when it's right there, to be able to say no to the things that are going to subtract from your plus when they're so easy, when they're right there, when it's easy to be like, I could do this, when it's so easy to be like, well, why not? It's just this one time, when it's so easy to be like, I can just sleep with her right now. It doesn't matter. It won't mean anything. And release your seed, and release your valuable life force, and release your valuable energy. There's some people that just can't help it, okay? And they're going to release their valuable life force, their valuable seed, their valuable energy, okay? Because they don't have the self-control, okay? So don't be that person out there. Once again, I'm about to start wrapping this video up, but hold on to your seed. For the men out there, hold on. For the guys out, whoever's listening, hold on to your seed, okay? Stop spilling your seed unnecessarily, okay? There's a reason that, it's a joke, right? The post-nut clarity, right? But that's the thing, though. There's a reason people are out here spilling their seed, and then they wake up and they're like, dang, was that even me? Did I even really need to do that? Like, who is this woman? Like, that's a real thing, okay? Don't be that person. Don't be that person, okay? Because I'll tell you this. It's always better to be able to learn from other people's situations, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, whether they're doing things positively or maybe they got themselves in a situation where the lust took over, the lust took control, okay? It's good to learn from their situations, okay? Okay, hey, if there's anything you're going to learn from, and I've learned from it. Fortunately, I didn't have to learn, by having a child I wasn't ready for, or getting into a baby mama drama or anything, fortunately, and I am blessed. So once again, I am blessed that I didn't have to learn that way, of actually being in the situation already. But have self-control, okay? Be the person that's able to look around and hear other people's stories, hear other people's advice, and to just not do that, okay? Because it's not for everyone. Okay, marriage, relationships, children is not for everyone, okay? And after I've learned some of these things, I realized these are things that are not for me. Marriage is not for me, okay? Fortunately, it didn't take me, having to get divorced so many times to realize that. I was just able to kind of put two and two together and was like, you know what? Marriage is not for me. A lot of these relationships and things that people are out here doing, it's just not for me, okay? And obviously, it's easier said than done, okay? Because there was a time that I was interested in these things, and now I have to say no, okay? I still get tempted. There's still temptation, but now I have to say no. No, I'm not interested in marriage. I'm not interested in relationships, okay? Children, not for me. There's other people out there that want to have children, so they're going to go have children. Shout out to them. Me personally, children are not for me. I will not be having children, okay? I will not be having children. So that's just something that's not for me. I'm a young guy, 23, but not for me. It's just not for me. But there's some people that it is for, okay? So once again, for the guys out there, have self-control. Have self-control with your seed. Have not only the discipline, but seed discipline. Have some seed discipline. Stop spilling your seed unnecessarily. Stop spilling your seed unnecessarily, okay? A lot of times, especially in today's day and age, we have been, programmed, tricked into believing that the things that you should be doing, right, are the good things. That's not true. You shouldn't be sleeping around. Sex and that intimate act is not something that just goes around for everybody. That's something sacred, in my opinion, right? It's not for everybody. That's not something you just do. It's not something you just out here messing around to mess around. You don't just do that. You don't just do that. And I'm sure the people that are out here doing that are seeing why you don't just do that. Because then you end up in situations, whether it's unnecessary drama, okay, or you're by yourself having your own revelations, okay, and now you're seeing that, dang, like, this is not it. You do not need to be out here sleeping around because now you're attached to people that you don't need to be attached to. Now you're involved in the situation. And then it's even more real if you have a child. Okay, then you brought a child into it. Now you're connected to this person. It's just like, well, I mean, hey, that's why you shouldn't be out here just sleeping around, okay? So, once again, hold on to your seed. Have not only D discipline, have seed discipline. Have some seed discipline, okay? Have seed discipline. So, with that being said, whoever's watching, man, whoever is listening, I hope that you could take something from this video and apply it to your life that results in a positive change and positive outcomes. I really do. I truly do. Hope you can just take anything, okay? Whether if it was something I said that just sparked an idea, I really hope you can. With that being said, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.